In 1972, at just 23 years of age, our speaker made history by becoming the first woman officer to join the Indian Police Service. She entered a profession where women were virtually unseen and went on to build a career defined by courage, integrity, discipline, and reform. Many know her as Crane Bedi, the fearless officer who demonstrated that the rule of law must apply equally to everyone, regardless of status or influence. Her transformational leadership reached its pinnacle. Yes. Her transformational leadership reached its pinnacle at Tihar Jail, where she introduced education, vocational training, meditation, and rehabilitation programs, fundamentally changing the way prison reform was viewed in India and beyond. Her pioneering work earned her Asia's Nobel Prize, the Ramon Magsaysay Award for Government Service, along with numerous national and international honors. She later served as a United Nations Civilian Police Advisor and went on to become the Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry, continuing her lifelong commitment to public service. And yet, remarkable as these achievements are, perhaps her greatest contribution cannot be measured in awards, titles, or accolades. Her greatest contribution is the path she created. Because she was willing to be the first, generations of women after her could dare to enter spaces where they had never been seen before. Because she challenged convention, countless others found the courage to challenge their own limitations. She's a reformer, a change maker, a nation builder, and an enduring symbol of what becomes possible when conviction is stronger than circumstance. Ladies, please join me in welcoming a warm, enthusiastic, beg your pardon, please join me in extending a warm, enthusiastic, and heartfelt welcome to Dr. Kiran Bedi. As we gather for an afternoon of reflection and meaningful dialogue, let us begin with a tradition that symbolizes light and new beginnings. May I now invite our chairperson, Deepa Reddy, along with our esteemed members of the past Chairperson's Council, to kindly come forward for the ceremonial lighting of the lamp as we formally commence today's event. Let us take a moment to center ourselves around the values that lie at the heart of leadership, service, and positive change. To lead us into the invocation, I now invite Rachna Reddy, Head Secretary, Flow Bengaluru, to please come forward.
In the spirit of today's theme, let us reflect on the values that inspire courage, integrity, and positive change. Let us resolve to always choose what is right over what is easy, truth over convenience, and integrity over compromise. Let us have the courage to stand firm in our convictions, the humility to serve without seeking recognition, and the wisdom to act with fairness and compassion. May every choice we make strengthen the trust others place in us, and may we leave every person, every place, and every community better than we have found it. And with that thought, may I request everyone to kindly rise for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
I think we needed the national anthem to play before the sponsor's video. So now we are going to play the sponsor video.
Since 1961, a legacy of financial trust began that today is not just a business but has created a meaningful difference to clients by creating an opportunity to empower financial growth. Strengthened by parliamentary regulation, Narenchits was established on March 13, 1989 as a classified NBFC under RBI governance. Narenchits proudly serves a niche clientele, entrepreneurs, business leaders and individuals who value reliability, mutual trust, credibility, sustainability, unwavering client support, commitment to timely delivery, a true testament to relationships built on integrity is how Narenchits stands apart and has set the benchmark high. Growth has been organic, steady, purpose-driven, focused not on scale alone but on making meaningful financial differences. From over 6 decades, consistently, Narenchits is a bridge between demand and supply as its financial products have enabled liquidity, empowered growth and supported business owners. With consistency and disciplined execution, Narenchits ensures uniform quality even as its financial products evolve. The focus in future is to elevate administrative excellence, strengthen clientele trust by being ahead to support sustainable businesses. Narenchits, a legacy of growth and trust that grows with you.
And now we arrive at the session we've all been waiting for. Guiding this conversation are two accomplished women whose journeys reflect leadership, purpose, and impact in their own unique ways. Our first moderator, Deepa Bhupesh Reddy, the 14th chairperson of Flow Bengaluru, is a leader who seamlessly bridges enterprise, culture, and community. As director at Bren Group, founder of the Open Trunk, and secretary of Shishu Griha School, she has consistently created meaningful intersections between business, heritage, and social impact. Through her work, she has championed India's rich artisanal legacy, supported women entrepreneurs, and advanced the cause of education, bringing to each endeavor a leadership style that is both purposeful and deeply people-centric. Joining her is Indira Holla, a Bangalore-based lawyer and alumna of ILS Law College, Pune. Having trained under some of country's most respected legal luminaries, including Harish Salve and Satish Parasaran, she brings sharp insight, thoughtful perspective, and a deep understanding of public affairs and leadership. Flow Bangalore, please join me in extending a warm, enthusiastic, and a loud welcome to Dr. Kiran Bedi.
I really hope we can do justice to sitting here in front of her, and I hope I managed to ask all the right questions for this audience. Deepa?
Don't worry, Indra, I'm sure. And we both just took a car ride with ma'am, and we were so excited. She is so sweet, so updated. Guys, you really will be so surprised for what's coming your way. Ma'am, thank you very much for coming to Bengaluru Fiki Flow and addressing each and everybody. Are a big fan of you. And we also have a classmate who was with you in Amritsar, Anu, who introduced herself to me at the lift. So I told her that I would definitely mention about her. You grew up at a time when girls were expected to live very different lives. How did your parents shape your confidence, ambition, and belief in yourself?
Look, I grew up, my parents talking about a vision, a dream. not the routine way at all. All I saw growing up is my father on the tennis court, mummy following him up when Papa would be playing, and I would be joining them from school. That's all I remember as I grew up, because Daddy was on the tennis court every afternoon. He refused to serve his father for more money because he would go to the club afternoon. Tennis was everything for him. It doesn't matter. They were in hotel business, etc. in Amritsar. And my father would leave his work and go and play tennis. And Daddy, Mummy would follow him, and so would we. Now, and I was given a tennis racket by the time I was just about 8 or 9. But prior to that, we always saw Papa, Mummy on the tennis club, at the tennis club. So we were playing while Daddy was playing. We were all playing, but we were all together. So I have grown up playing. At the age of 9, I started to hit the ball. And then we would, by the time I was 10, 11, I would cycle back home. While parents would go back on the mobike. Daddy had, I think, a motorcycle. So Papa and Mummy would go on a mobike. Me and my younger sister would go cycling together. My younger sister on my career below. So we would drive. And we would be shorts or in tracksuits. So I've grown up playing, seeing. I've not grown up my mother saving for a future in a different way. They were all the time. And there was a lot of nutrition. So it's all about upbringing in a manner which was so positive. It was all games and it was all activity. And it was, boys were not playing. I didn't see many of our family members, boys, going out doing this. I had uncles and aunts, but none of them were doing what my parents were doing. So my parents' thinking was totally different. So I saw difference, but I didn't realize the difference till I grew up. But growing up, while my other cousins were home, while we were playing shorts, skirts, not even bothered how we were looking like, whether we were being beautifully dressed up. No way. Even in weddings, when I remember that age when we would go for a wedding or a reception, we would turn up in our tennis kit. There was no formality. हम तो खेल के आए हैं. That's it. So सभी को हो रहा था प्रकाश के बच्चे बेटियां बड़ी different है. बहुत different. So we grew up very differently without knowing we are being different. But we were just natural to ourselves. This is the way we were. That's it. So we were accepting ourselves the way we were. And we were nowhere at that age comparing ourselves with others.
Wow, amazing. So it was totally different. Why IPS? Was there a defining moment that made you choose a path no Indian women had taken before?
Yes. You see, the kind of outdoor exposure I was getting as a child, wish girls do get that. The kind of exposure. Because at the time of 13, 14, I had started to travel third-class compartments from Amritsar to Delhi to play competitive tennis in Delhi at the Gymkhana Club. From Amritsar, we would take unreserved compartments, ladies' compartments, and then साके सीट मलनी क्योंकि सीट मिलेगी नहीं भीड़. So I used to travel up ताकि सीट मिल जाए. यहाँ रात को सोना है तो वो जो लगेज का होता है ना जिसमें सामान रखते हैं, हम वहाँ जाके अपना बिस्तर लगा लेते थे ताकि हमको सो जाए. So we were entrepreneurial. So I was an outdoor girl, enterprising, managing, finding solutions, finding my comfort for a goal I had. So from 13, 14, Papa wasn't traveling with us. We were with boys. There were other boys who used to go from the Amritsar club. So we would all be together and we were sent with them. And we didn't make them brothers. We were friends. We were friends. We were friends. And we had to fight with each other. And we were friends. मगर मजाल है कि कोई शब्द गलत बोल दे. कोई नहीं. They were decent people. I think at that time we had decent boys. There was decency. But many things which they couldn't do, I was doing for them as a 13-year-old girl. So, like reservations of the seat, lumbi line lagi hai, I would go on the side and get the tickets. You know? So, again, it was like getting things done. So, I was getting things done, being an outdoor girl, enterprising, not bothered whether they're boys and girls, finding my own discomfort, making it comfortable. Where else will I go? And I was also seeing injustice. I was seeing the fairness and the unfairness around the society. And I also saw the power of the power. And if I have to get things done, I need to be in power. And at that time, the choice was Union Public Service Commission examination. That was my choice. And my father used to talk about being a commissioner or a deputy commissioner. So the word deputy commissioner was in the house. So the word deputy commissioner was coming. Not engineer, not doctor, not business, but deputy commissioner. I decided to be a deputy commissioner of police. That was the only difference. Why? Because from the age of 14, when I went to college, Government College for Women, I first subject I asked for NCC. I wanted to be an NCC cadet. And they said, no, ये तो optional subject है. दूसरे पक्के वाले, permanent वाले भेजो, जो compulsory है. I said, okay. So NCC was very clear. NCC was uniform. Uniform means opening the doors, getting things done, being of help to others, asserting power to say yes and no, help others. So for me, uniform stood for justice and power. Power to do justice. So uniform, IPS was my first step. That's what happened. And I did not know I was going to be the first. I did not know. When I filled in the form, my other friends were writing, hey, IPS क्यों लिख रही है first preference? IPS क्यों लिख रही है? I said, मुझे यही तो चाहिए. They said, अच्छा. Nobody told me that there are no women before me. Nobody. But even if they had, I would have said, very good, all the more better. I got to know it only when I went to the academy for training. The academy in Mussoorie, where we all go for training, all the services. That's when the times, and hey, first time we have a woman in the IPS. I said, what's your problem? He said, but you know, there are no women before. I said, so what do I do? They said, you're being called by the Government of India, Ministry of Home Affairs, to see that you change your mind. Kiran, don't change your mind. We want to have women in the IPS. Kiran, don't change your mind. I said, crazy. Who's changing her mind? So I was called, that's a fact. I was from Mussoorie. I had a meeting with the Home Minister at that time, Mr. K.C. Pant. And he said, you have qualified for other services also, but why IPS is your first preference? Why do you want it? I said, sir, but this is what I want to do. This is what I like to do. And he says, this is what it means. I said, so be it, sir, but I want to do this. But he knew me as a tennis player. He knew I wouldn't change my mind and that I was basically a champion at heart. So he stood up and shook hands with me. He says, I welcome the first woman of the Indian Police Service. That's the time when I got it. And when I came back, all my batchmates were very thrilled. They clapped and they celebrated. Oh, we've got the first woman of the IPS as our batchmate.
Wow, amazing. Very inspiring, ma'am, really. So what did tennis teach you about leadership, resilience, and handling failure? How important is it for women to pursue a sport, or for anybody for that matter?
Tennis taught me to lose. Tennis taught me to get up again. Tennis taught me to deal with hostility. Tennis taught me collaboration. Tennis taught me competition. Tennis taught me preparation. Tennis taught me hard work. Tennis taught me the rules. Tennis taught me justice. Where I could say, no, this was right. The umpire would say, out. I said, no, umpire, it was right. I could go up to say, even if it goes to it taught me rules. It taught me life. It taught me to win. And it taught me that the win is very long, not long lasting. I have to play again. and that I celebrate the victory today, but I have to prepare from tomorrow again because it's a back-to-back tournaments. So tennis taught me there is no rest between two victories, and no victory is permanent. And that if I won last week, I have to do everything again and better to do it better. It taught me to learn. It taught me to watch. It taught me concentration. It taught me to totally work hard and prepare. It taught me what makes you win. Like many times, I was a student, very keen student as well, and I used to carry books along. I used to travel with my school bag or my college books. And when the tennis match would be over, I would hit the bed after a shower and start me reading my books because I had an examination to take. It taught me time management. Look, without playing, I would not have learned all this. And it also gave me friends from all over the country. And there were foreigners also coming in. So it also made me realize where we are lacking, where we are missing. Many times I did not have a court to practice. I used to hit against the wall to play. I did not get court to practice in Amritsar sometimes. And I used to play against the wall for hours, practicing a cross court, plastic down the line. It was the wall. Sometimes even wall did not happen. My father used to make me practice on our home lawns as shadow practice. And I would do shadow practice on my footwork, on saying, now drop shot. Then he say, back goal. Then it's a backhand cross. And I'm doing shadow practice. Shadow practice, wall practice, right? All this is situational. So tell me, is this preparing ourselves for life? Where are life's challenges different? Being fair, being just, being prepared, being hardworking, getting out of comfort zone, using time management, calling out for others when it is right, making friends, and then when you lose or win, you shake hands. So it's not an enemy. See you tomorrow, see you next again. There were lots. All these things were learned on the court. And also adversity. It was, those days we didn't have diesel engines, coal engines. And there was so much of coal dust settling on all of us while we were traveling from Amritsar to Trivandrum. Imagine, 2 nights, 3 days, 2 nights. And by the time we would reach, we would be still doing this. And we are called out to play. And we can't complain because now it's time to play. So no complaints. You've come here to play. No complaints. So in life, no complaints. All these habits came to me in my service. Without knowing, where did I learn it? Did I learn it in a book? Did I learn it from my parents? I learned it by doing. So if you want your girls or boys, both, make them sportsmen. Make them play. Make them play, find the time for them. Tell them, pick up any game. Play, go enjoy, and compete. Even if it's a college sports activity, a state champion, play. Oh, I'm not going to win, doesn't matter. Play. Every competition teaches you. And it gives you more confidence. And it also teaches you how to get up after. What is failure? So I used to lose many close matches. I used to cry, howl, I've lost my match. And then I remember many times my father used to stand behind the curtain. When I'm losing, he would stand behind the curtain. I said, वो मुझे कहते होते थे, कौन खेल रहा है, बाद में रोएंगी. बाद में तू रोएगी, अभी खेल ले. And I remember how to start. It changed my mindset. And I remember, मैं बाद में रोऊंगी, मैं अभी क्यों नहीं खेलूं ठीक से. So it taught me anticipation. I think this tennis, I owe it to my sports, and that too starting at the very early age. It also gave me stamina. It gave me endurance. It gave me staying power. It also taught me never to say die. Or I'm tired. Tired है तो थक गया. मम्मी दबा देगी ना legs शाम को. So I think it also taught us how to come back with energy. also how to eat the right food. The right food. You can't have puris and kachoris. You can't, as a sports person, you got to eat at the right time, in the right amount, and the right kind of food. All these habits, where do you learn from? Where do you learn from? If you want better children, better, stronger children, skilled, and then rather than playing, if they don't play, what else will they do? They'll only do reels. So get them onto court saying, forget, go play that reel. And arrange them in such a way, particularly school children, arrange the closest facility available and the game the child likes. I liked tennis. I wasn't forced into it. I could have said, "Maine nahi khelni." But I played, I started to enjoy it. So let them play a game and enjoy it. And they learn all these things which I told you from playing, not by reading, not by your telling, not by their listening, but by doing. Doing. Okay? But this is applicable for life. You want to make it, you got to play the game. You're in music, you're in art, play the game. Get into early music. Getting into it early is the key. So make sure that your boys and girls enter what they like. Music, art, culture, whatever, dance, games, chess, indoor, outdoor, doesn't matter. Let them join a game which they like. With the result, after school, there was only a tennis court and there was no nonsense. Black and white television at home, black and white. We could have even switched on and to see Chitrahar all the time or a movie. They were there, but we had no time. So where was the time to let go? And then another thing which I used to do very interestingly, which continues to be with my habit, is that when I was waiting for my turn to come, because tennis courts were not so many, and my turn to come, I had a homework to do. I used to sit on the side and do my homework. I learned how do I get the best out of the minimum time. Again, it traveled into my work habits. See, so I think the only way as good parenting can happen is make sure that your child at that young age, who are young mothers, have the school. Either they have a facility in the school and they use that, put extra time there, or they are attached to a activity which is close by. It's worth the investment. It's the best investment parent can play is identify the creative habit of the child when the child is in school and make sure school provides it and you provide it and that you also see it, also participate in it, also support it and also invest into it. Get him a good teacher and a coach. Like I am recalling what I did. Parents are not listening. Hopefully they are. I hope they are. But I'm telling you, this is what your children will also talk. One day later, who do they owe whatever they have to whom?
So now, ma'am, moving on. During the most demanding years of your career, how did you balance public service, family, and motherhood? We also took a poll with our members, and this is the answer that we've got. So would you want to listen to the answers given by our audience first? 44% of them believe, it's fourth question.
What is the question?
Managing expectations. The question is, how did you balance everything? How did you juggle public service, family, and motherhood?
What am I doing at tennis? I'm balancing. I'm learning already to balance. I've told you example of balancing where I'm sitting outside the school, outside the court to study. Or when I'm traveling, I'm also reading. Or when I'm finished with the matches, I'm back to study. I learn to prioritize. That's the key. That's the main thing. I'm knowing what is my priority and what is right for me. Look, there are many friends of mine where the moment we finished, they went for dance clubs. They went dancing. And they had a lot of fun. But I didn't want that fun. I preferred my own work to fun. I had a choice to make. Another thing which you learn when you give a vision to the children, they prioritize and they make better choices. I learned to make better choices as a girl child. Choices were made. So that is how all these things you cannot sermonize to children. You have to role model for them and facilitate for them so that this happens easily for them. And it's not an imposition. And you also participate. Sometimes you play and join them. Either a father or a mother or a grandparent does that. And you see the colossal difference it will make in their upbringing.
So, ma'am, in India, a care economy, we have a lot of people taking care of the elderly, the disabled, and even parents just taking care of the children, grandparents contributing. The care economy is not really looked into by the government. What do you think the government can do to support the care economy?
Before you ask, Indira, what the government can do, ask yourself what we can do. What we can do. गवर्नमेंट नहीं करेगी ये गवर्नमेंट के थोड़े स्कूल खुल जाएंगे सोशल सेंटर्स खुल जाएंगे थोड़े थोड़े बट गवर्नमेंट विल नॉट पुट योर हार्ट एंड सोल इनटू इट I think the question we should be asking each other, every family, is what can I do for the other? And we all can. We can all babysit for each other. We can all do elder care for each other. We can hire services also for each other. But we can't do for each other. To my mind, this sisterhood is for care for each other first. This is first. And if the sisterhood does not lead to care for each other, it's no point. You're wasting your time. First requirement is, how can I care for each other? If somebody is ill and the family needs care, family needs evening food, send the food home. Contribute to see that the food goes home. If the child needs care, see if there are friends, bring the child home and take care. Be the mothers. Be mothers. And be sisters to each other. To me, this is called sisterhood. So Vicky Flow will lead to entrepreneurship as well. But another thing we can do is to identify 12th standard pass, unemployed young boys would also be required for some single fathers or single grandparents who might need a boy's hands. I think such a person can be trained in child care. It can be also trained in elder care. And you can have a roster. You can have a roster for yourself that these are the people we identified, credible people who can be lent to each other. So lending housekeepers to each other. Lending child care to each other. Don't look at government. That's wasting your time. So I think we are meant for each other. Those of us who have the resources also groom each other, groom child care. And we can even have volunteers taken for training. And you can do 3-month, 6-month courses and put them together and pay them some internship. That internship will pay them for the school fee, college fee, and the skill. And it's a skill earned. And then what does the care provider do? Sit down when your child is back home. And you may not be home, you may be traveling, and that care provider sits and makes sure the child does the homework. Or the elder care is provided nursing, and the nurse attends. You never know what for. So any child who's looking for college education can learn self-care skill. And it's a very valuable skill today. Try that.
Now moving on to the most exciting part of your career, the Raman Magsaysay Award for your work at Tihar. It's the equivalent of the Nobel Peace Prize in Asia. Do you want to tell us about Tihar, about why you decided that prisoners needed a second chance and didn't just follow the footsteps of your predecessors?
Friends, it's very interesting to tell you. This is the first time a peace award for a police officer has been given. First time when I got this award, it was the first time a peace award. That peace award was crime prevention. It was prevention. Good detection is also prevention. So good detection, but crime prevention. And even while I was in the police, my whole approach was when I would catch any criminal, I would go to him. And had many police stations under my charge at that time. And I was Deputy Commissioner, West Delhi Police. Every morning when I would get up, I would get a diary who all have been arrested and who are in the police lockup. I would choose to drive straight to that person to find out why did he commit this crime. Why did he? Also to check no false arrest has been made. No false planting has been done. But I was very curious to know as a student of criminology as to why did he commit the crime. But the why also gave me what more can I do for the society to see that the crime doesn't happen. So this was giving me the curiosity and the knowledge and the skill, and I could design my plans accordingly, strategize. Unless you know the why, how do you strategize? Anything which goes wrong, if you want to correct the wrong, is to go back to find out why did it go wrong. Isn't it? Only then can you improve it, whether at professional work or my kind of work. So I was always finding out why. Why have you committed crime? Where did we fail? So I was very angry with myself. Where did we fail? And I realized who was failing. Who was failing? Where were we failing? So I had more ideas than many of my colleagues had. So in meetings, in commissioners' meetings, when they would talk about these, I would offer these suggestions. And everybody would look up to me, "ये बड़ा बोलती है. इसको कहाँ से पता है?" The reason was I was asking. It's like, for example, let me give you an example. If a particular murder happens or a rape happens, and if the why of that rape or the murder is found out and made public, let people know why was this happening. They will, crime prevention ideas will start coming in the people's minds that how can they, what should they do to prevent themselves or a sexual harassment against a woman, a teenager getting assaulted by POSCO or whatever cases, that you will need to know. Unfortunately, our police department does not share with you the why of that crime. It does not get to know. With the result that most of us are ignorant about the reasons of crime. I used to go and find out the why for my crime prevention to make a better police station, better police work. This went on. Now I was posted to the prison service. Where better crime prevention than the prison? When I was practicing crime prevention as a police officer through lots of measures of policing, and this book, I Dare, mentions it. In fact, some of those practices are so good that if they were practiced nationally, 1/3 of Indian crime would fall if they would follow those what I did. But then problem is, policing is a state subject. And one government of India cannot direct. It doesn't work. Every Director General Police has to practice this. That means more than 30 officers have to be in alignment on crime prevention methods. Only then will it happen. Otherwise it won't. I was only one. So I was doing it because I was my own leader. So when all this was going on, this was being known that this is what she's doing. And that is why I was getting a lot of goodwill and trust. Now came the prison. What is the purpose of the prison? Purpose of the prison was crime prevention. I asked myself, how? Why I knew I'm here for preventing further crime because I've packed in here with all the criminals who committed a crime, serious or non-serious, but they committed a crime. Therefore, what is it that I can do that they do not repeat a crime when they get out of prison? Because they all get out. They all have to go out on bail or acquittal or one day after conviction. They have to go. Every day in my time, 500 new people came, another 500 left. So 500 were leaving, 500 were earlier. As a DCP, I used to track who has come out of the prison. मेरा वेस्ट डिस्ट्रिक्ट का क्रिमिनल तो नहीं है कोई आया जिसको मैं देखने जाऊं, दोबारा क्राइम तो नहीं करेगा. I used to track them because prison had no programs. So when I went, I started to now do what I wanted to be done as a police officer. What is it? Crime prevention, crime treatment, rehabilitation, reflection, education, yoga, meditation, spirituality, all that, because that is what changes your mind. Crime is a product of the mind. Hands are used by the mind. So I started. I said, here is a wonderful place, opportunity for my lifetime. While Indra knows that the book also says that it was considered a punishment posting because no police officer wanted to run a prison. It was not glamorous. Glamorous was that you are the direct inspector general of a zone and people come to Savarash for you. I wasn't interested in glamour. I wanted substance. So friends, this is what happened. When I went there, it was nothing but an urban zoo. When I first day entered the prison, everybody was howling. When I walked the prison at night, first day, it was howling. And I asked my staff, ऐसे ये कौन है ये? कौन हाउलिंग करे? क्या है ये? सोते नहीं रात को? कहता मैम ये रात को नहीं सोते. तो मैं क्या सोते कब है? पता नहीं, दिन में सोते. मैं कहा रात को क्यों नहीं सोते? मैडम इनको दवाई चाहिए, ड्रग्स. इनको ड्रग्स चाहिए, इनको ड्रग्स नहीं मिली, इनकी डोज नहीं मिली, इसलिए ये परेशान है. दिन में तो मिल जाएगी दवाई, इधर उधर से घर से आ जाएगी, लेकिन रात को वो टूटन हो रही है, कॉल्ड विड्रॉल सिम्टम्स. आई न्यू हाफ ऑफ माई प्रिजन वॉज ड्रग एडिक्ट. What do I do? Half of them were drug addict. And they were addicted to smoking as well, which is equally addictive. That exposure, you see that? Now again I've gone to the field and to find out what is it, what's happening, what can I do to learn what is it that I can change this. But where's the problem? The problem was none of them were sleeping at night because of drugs. So I set up a timetable. I set up a timetable for the prisoners, and timetable was set. And now I gave them the time to get up, time to sleep, time to eat, time to do yoga, time to study, time to meditate, time to play. I gave them the time to play. But where do the teachers come from? I borrowed them all from NGOs outside. All NGOs came inside, friends, not government. NGOs came with goodies, with clothing, books, stationery, everything that I needed. Why? All my goodwill of my policing now paid me well. No school said no to me for anything I asked. No trust said no to me when I asked for my prisoners. Nobody. No Gurdwara, Mandir, Masjid, Christian church said no to me to come and do festival management. हर फेस्टिवल मनाया, कोई खर्चा नहीं किया. किताबें 10,000 को मिली, कोई खर्चा नहीं किया. टीचर्स 10,000 को मिले, कोई खर्चा नहीं किया. कौन? पढ़े लिखे प्रिजनर्स टीचर्स बन गए. So we made a list. Who is a graduate? Who is this? Who's that? We got them in. So we trained them, oriented them. Everybody had books, bags, stationery, teachers, blackboards. And from 9 to 11, everybody went to school. अब ये नशे कहाँ से लेंगे? और उनकी सर्चेस हमने बढ़ा दी और नशा मुक्ति केंद्र भी खोल दिए, वो भी एनजीओ से, सरकार से नहीं. सरकार पर थे ही नहीं, काउंसलर नहीं थे, डॉक्टर भी नहीं थे. हाँ, डॉक्टर कहाँ से आएंगे? डॉक्टर तो ऐसे नहीं मिलेंगे आपको फ्री. तो क्या हुआ? एक मेरी जनकपुरी की कॉलोनी है, वहाँ बड़े सारे होम्योपैथ्स थे. मैंने सारे होम्योपैथ्स को बुलाया और वो सस्ते में आ गए. और वो वाइट कोट पहन के, वो वाइट कोट पहन के स्टेथोस्कोप लगा के चलने, किसी को क्या पता होम्योपैथ है कि एलोपैथ है, क्या पता। और एलोपैथ तो एडिक्टिव दवाई देता था, होम्योपैथ तो एक वाइट पाउडर देता था। वी गॉट देम आउट ऑफ एडिक्शन। एंड दीज डॉक्टर्स को आने जाने का खर्चा मैंने दे दिया। मैंने बोला ऐसे है, चाहे आप साइकिल पे आओ चाहे रिक्शे पे आओ, मेरी जो अलाउंस है ना, रूल्स में अलाउंस, वो आपको आने जाने का 3 व्हीलर का देता है। मैं नहीं आपको पूछूंगी आप कैसे आए हो, मैं आपको 3 व्हीलर का खर्चा दूंगी। तो उनको खर्चा मिल गया। Some made money on it, some did not make money on it. But so many white coats with stethoscopes roamed around the whole prison every day. And then they looked after the withdrawals. They gave them the homeopathy medicines. And they started to recover. So recovery started to such an extent that I one day asked for Shri Satyanarayan Goenka ji, my Vipassana teacher, that's गुरुजी, हमको यहाँ मेडिटेशन प्रोग्राम करना है, आप कर सकते हैं, करा देंगे? बोले बेटे एक बात है, पहले तब आऊँगा, कोई वहाँ बंदूकें नहीं लगेंगी सामने, बंदूकें नहीं दिखनी चाहिए मुझे, और तुम भी बैठोगे। मैं कहा गुरुजी मैं भी बैठूंगी, मैं भी अपना सुधार करना चाहती हूँ। तो फ्रेंड्स, डू यू नो वी हेल्ड अ फर्स्ट टाइम एवर अ मेडिटेशन प्रोग्राम फॉर 1000 prisoners. And that is what made the prison into an ashram. Now came the Magsaysay. That's how the Magsaysay came. Magsaysay award came, all this was spreading around the Asia. And a lot of prisoners, foreign prisoners, were leaving the prison every day. They were talking to their embassies. So we didn't have to market ourselves. We didn't have to propagate. I didn't even know what Magsaysay stood for. When all this was traveling around in Asian countries, and a lot of prisoners who were going back to their embassies, they talked about this. कि हम सीख के आए हैं, हम ठीक हो के आए हैं, हम तो इंग्लिश सीख के आए हैं, हम हिंदी भी सीख के आए हैं, हम पढ़ लिख के आए हैं, हम तो कंप्यूटर भी सीख के आए हैं, हम तो इग्नाउ की डिग्री भी लेके आ रहे हैं, because I had opened all these schools inside the prison. So friends, this is how Magsaysay happened suddenly. It was the first time for this purpose. And from Magsaysay came my foundation, which you are sponsoring. I want to tell you what Deepa is doing. When my Magsaysay came, I dedicated to a foundation. Awards are to carry forward the work. So I dedicated in my acceptance speech that with the receipt of Magsaysay, I give birth to a foundation called India Vision Foundation, which will educate the children of prisoners. And friends, we got more than 300 to 400 children being educated by us, by the foundation. And she is sponsoring 10 children for that. She's Deepa. She is sponsoring 10 children out of her own savings. She and my director, I think this conspired themselves. And that is how, one by one, and a lot of Fiki Flow friends have come in. So the award was dedicated to the creation of a foundation, and now it's functioning for the last 30 years. And we worked with 100 prisons now, 100 prisons in India, in the belt, and we work with so many children. And some of them children, you would be happy to know, whom I started with Playway School, are working with me in the foundation.
Amazing, ma'am. Really.
Ma'am, have you gone back to Tihar after that? Are your policies still in place? How does it function now? This is an Indra wants to know question.
Indra is a lawyer. Yes and no. Yes and no. That spirit of connecting with everybody, all of them, from waking up till night, connecting with them as a human being, as a mentor, as a mother, as a sister, as a teacher, as a supervisor? No. So some study, some don't. Some are getting skilled, some don't. The only difference was, in my case, it was either everybody or nobody. So nobody means nobody, matlab, I'm also nobody. So in our case, it was reforms and benefits to all, time management for all, day timetable for all, no smoking for all. So now it is, जो करना है तो कर लो, नहीं करना तो मत करो. So now it's not mandatory, it's not compulsory. Mine was compulsory. I was a cop. करना है, पढ़ना है, नहीं तो मैं नहीं तुमको जीने दूंगी. So होता क्या था, पढ़ने की कहानी छोटी सी बताऊं, very briefly. इतना टाइट थे हम लोग कि जो क्लास में पढ़ते थे रोज, जिनकी क्लास लगी होती थी, हर प्रिजनर की ग्रुप लगा होता, कोई हिंदी क्लास, कोई मैथमेटिक्स क्लास, कोई प्राइमरी क्लास, सब क्लासेस, तो उनकी अटेंडेंस होती थी, इम्तिहान भी होता था. और मैं रोज सुबह 9 बजे प्रिजन के वॉक करती थी, वॉक अराउंड एज अ हेड मास्टर. तो वो उनको पता था मैडम ने आ जाना पता नहीं कब. सो आई यूज्ड टू वॉच, देन आई यूज्ड टू वॉच देयर अटेंडेंस कि अच्छा इम्तिहान हुआ, ठीक, पास हो गए, पास. तो इसमें अटेंडेंस भी लगती थी प्रिजनर में, हर टीचर अटेंडेंस लगाता था. उसमें लगता था पी पी प्रेजेंट, पी पी, एक में लिखा हुआ बी. तो मैंने कहा ये बी क्या है? मैम ये बीमार था. तो बीमार का भी वो लिखते थे कि बीमार है इसलिए नहीं आया. अब जो पढ़ना है तो पढ़ो, नहीं पढ़ना तो ना पढ़ो. सो फर्क ये है, मगर फैसिलिटीज बहुत है. अब वहाँ डॉक्टरों की बेशुमार है, अस्पताल बहुत सारे हैं, स्किल्स के भी केसेस हैं, इश्यूज हैं, बहुत सारे एनजीओज आते हैं. लेकिन वो जो टोटलिटी और विपश्यना का छोटा छोटा कोर्स होता है, बड़ा नहीं होता. सो छोटे छोटे प्रोग्राम्स, ऐसे यस एंड नो, यस छोटे छोटे प्रोग्राम है, लेकिन जो इम्पैक्टिंग होना चाहिए, जो ट्रांसफॉर्मेटिव होना चाहिए, जो रिफॉर्मेटिव होना चाहिए, जो उनको पढ़ाना और काउंसलिंग होना चाहिए, वो नहीं है. दैट्स अ प्रॉब्लम.
That was Tihar. Now moving on to the next big chapter, according to me, was your fight against corruption. I remember when I was watching the entire movement led by Shri Anna Hazare ji, and all of you all at Jantar Mantar. I felt it was a time of great change. There was going to be great change in the country, and things as we know it would not be there anymore. Corruption wouldn't be there anymore. Can you tell us about your fight against corruption, and what do you think we have to do to eradicate corruption? I also felt that way when we had the Lokpal bill and the Right to Information Act. I felt those legislations changed, would have changed, but is the effect there today? What do you think about it?
That's a tragedy of it. That's the tragedy. Because the 2 years, some of us gave everything to that movement. Everything we had. It was very sultry, very humid. We all went through huge, strenuous dharnas. I joined the movement because I realized an FIR was not being registered against Mr. Kalmadi. And Mr. Kalmadi had, there were allegations of corruption against him at the Commonwealth Games, and the police was not registering an FIR. So those people who were organizers approached me. Said, Kiran, हमें help करा दो, FIR तो दर्ज कर दें. Those days, I used to write articles on police reforms. And I used to write about all this. And I knew what this meant. So I answered my own conscience that I'm writing all the time. This is time for me to raise my voice. Come what may. I'm writing against police corruption. I'm writing against police leadership. Then now is the chance when people are coming together as one movement. Even Sri Sri Ravi Shankar came. Ramdev ji came. Many others came. And I went back to the police station and I said, and those were my junior colleagues, and I said, तुम FIR क्यों नहीं दर्ज करते? FIR में तुम्हें क्या प्रॉब्लम है? इन्वेस्टिगेशन तुम्हारे हाथ में है, FIR करो. जब आपको ये लिखत दे रहे हैं तो लिखो FIR. So he got the FIR registered. Now came all these people who had also joined in, and Anna Hazare. corruption was rampant at that time. It's not that it is not now, it's much less. It is there, but it's a little hidden. That time it got exposed in a big way. The 2G scams, the Indira Colony, Mumbai scam, the housing scam, the Commonwealth Games scam, everything was a scam. And it was needing a change. So I decided to play my duty, my role as a citizen. As a citizen, thank you, very kind of you. As a citizen. And I joined the movement. Now it meant Anna Hazare on a hunger strike. तो आप इनके साथ बैठो, आवाज आप भी दो, आप भी बोलो. तो मैं भी बोली कि ये जो भी हो रहा है गलत हो. And I did. Friends, you won't believe it. I did go to the government of that day. Many times I went, think, why don't you bring the law which we're looking for so that this movement goes? Because our object was, why are you making this old man suffer for hunger strike? Because we are not, none of us are interested, none of us were at that time, or some of us still not, were interested in a diversion. But nobody heard. Nobody heard. I don't wish to drop the names, but we did not spare anybody. We went even to all the highest authorities to say, please get out of this situation. Give us the law. It's good for the country. But they would lie. हमको मिलते थे, हाँ हम कर देंगे, और अगले दिन स्टेटमेंट कुछ और देते थे रात को टेलीविजन पर, और हम रात को सोने से पहले कहते अभी तो मिलके आए हैं, अभी स्टेटमेंट दे रहे हैं. So much of falsification. They drafted the law. We wanted the law. They drafted the law. The law was well drafted. It had the provisions which we were looking for. But it was not. When it came to passing, lots of ifs and buts came in, and it was a disaster. It was a lost opportunity. And by the time we also reached a position of huge acceptance, I used to come to Bangalore also to make public speeches on Anna Hazare, with Anna Hazare, to speak about it, because it was all over the movement. Then it broke away. Somebody, teams from within, said, this is a great fort, great. कुछ लोग आसीन में से बोलने लग गए, अब तो हम सरकार बनाएंगे. तो मैं कहा, कौन सी सरकार बनाएंगे? हम सरकार बनाएंगे, तो तुम चलो. मैं कहा, मैं सरकार बनाने के लिए नहीं आई थी, मेरा काम खत्म हो गया. They bifurcated and lot of wrong things happened. But friends, the benefit of that movement was it did lead to the change of government. It did lead to the change of the government. And what you have today is a product, somewhere a lot product of that movement, because it did spread a message to root out corruption and vote out the corrupt. So friends, this is, I think, the biggest benefit I could have. So, but rest is history, rest is a different history. But whatever role I could play as a citizen, answering my own conscience for no personal interest, that I joined the movement and I gave it all my best of energy as much as possible.
So ma'am, one part of my question is still left. What should be done to totally eradicate corruption today? Can anything be done?
Very simple question, but they won't follow it. Very simple way is exactly the way I rooted out corruption wherever I worked. And I'm nobody different from the rest, from the same service. Look, if you look at the political scenario and the politician moving away from corruption or not corruption, I think is asking for the moon. Why? Because it's transactional. People now are so used to what is in it for them that they vote for them. So people have been spoiled, particularly the vote banks have been all spoiled as to what is it that they are getting to give a vote. So it's transactional. And the politicians also, to be in power, have to cater to that interest which votes them in. Whether it's a women bank, whether it's a casteist bank, whether it's a rural bank. So God knows. Whether it's an urban cluster. Everybody has an interest at one constituency. So they have to cater to that need, and therefore, and today elections cost huge amount of money in electioneering. So when you ask for political, it may be difficult to change because it costs money and money is pumped back. So it's money gets money and it's a money relationship. But one rule, if it is done in this country, which can be done, which is possible to do, but it needs a diktat. It needs an order. It needs a directive. It needs a mandate. And it needs to be compulsory. And that's what I tried and it worked. Get out of your work. Every bureaucrat, every police officer, every IS officer, every IPS officer, every critical Indian civil service officer, whichever rank, out in the field, municipality, education, medical care, secretaries, the secretaries of all these departments and heads of each department get into the field in the morning. Every morning, walk your field. That means go where your area is. If you're an education secretary, check the school. If you're a medical secretary, go to any hospital. If you're a municipal commissioner, go to any land, any park, any lake, any. When you go, the juniors will go with you. And when you go, the juniors will go, people will throng to you. People will come and talk to you. You are getting directly to see what is not right. What is difficult in this? Starting your day at 9 in the morning. And leave your offices. Don't go to the office. Go to the field. And in that case, corruption will come down at least straight away by 50 to 60% because it will become an exposure and transparent. And people will have a right to grouse. And when your Bangalore lake is full of jug at what time? Isn't it visible? When it starts coming in, why doesn't the municipality go there and see what's happening? And call the team saying, let's get going and start removing all this nonsense around. Or the illegal construction. Today you have the drones. You can send the drones to find over the colonies. Anywhere is an unauthorized construction coming, it will be visible. The drone will give you camera-controlled visual of what's going wrong where. Just be available. 9 o'clock in the morning, even 1 hour a day, by the civil servants of this country at the top level. Why I'm saying top level? Because when the secretary will walk, secretary will walk, juniors will walk. And juniors can't be having haftas. Haftas will go. Arey, kuku shakal dikhani hai na? How can you hide your face? And then create other systems of openness. Second level is very interesting, is open house. Walk the streets. Second is open your office to the public grievance between 4 and 5 every day for 1 hour. Let anybody come, first serve basis. So that means the juniors are afraid कि कहीं जाके शिकायत न कर दें, पता चल जाएगा, or send an email. This is, friends, I practiced for 5 years as Lieutenant Governor in Puducherry. It worked. It worked. You ask anybody in Puducherry, living in Puducherry today, was this happening or not? Ask anybody. If it can happen in that small town or city, it can happen in anywhere in the country. As a Lieutenant Governor, from 4 to 5, no, my mind went on to 7 o'clock. 4 to 7, I used to stand and meet anybody, first come, first serve basis, heard them and resolve their issues. Similarly, went around the town on a bike, on a cycle, because the Mercedes car doesn't make you see anything. You have to bike the town. So I used to bike my town to see where is the garbage or where is anything else. So corruption fell. Grievance redressal went up. People start to connect and integrity rose up. So, but the politicians of the day were not my friends. They were not my friends. But I lasted for 5 years. 5 years is a long time. I lasted for 5 years. And if ever You are now asked this question. Can corruption in India fall? You say yes. You say yes. Let the senior bureaucrats be out on the road. You just say that. And these IAS and the IPS and the IRS and the education, so let them be available and visible. Second, open house. Second thing, open house. Ask your politicians to sit with an open house. Ask these bureaucrats, open up 1 hour every day and record every complaint which is coming. You will see that fall in corruption. Your problem in Bangalore, your problem of contractors, remember? Huge problem of contractors came up. Why did people not complain? Because everybody was hand in glove. So if you want a prevention, then prevention is in the hands of the secretariat, the bureaucracy. Do you know what? It will even put the politicians in their place. Because all this is transactional to do something wrong. Something transacts and you are ignored and you probably become a part of the caucus. So friends, there is an answer. Answer lies in the way we are not appointing our IS, IPS and other services. The way they are delivering. They are delivering. Why don't they do this? There's no money required. Open house, no money. 9 a.m. tour, no money. Where's the money? It's money saved. And money saved is money earned in this country.
Thank you, ma'am. So we have like one last question before we start the rapid fire round.
Okay. I'm the accused interrogation. Being interrogated by 2 interrogators. But they're beautiful.
Very
Kind ones.
Compassionate, reasonable.
So, ma'am, with all that you have stayed true, you have changed so many lives, you've brought in so much order in a place where nobody would have think of bringing order. With all that, how have you stayed true to yourself? And then we also know you're a very updated person of AI, and we saw how you were managing your technology. So what inspires you even today? What's keeping you going?
Never to get outdated. Never to get outdated. Anything you do, don't get outdated. That's when you age. You age only when you become outdated. You want to stay young? Doesn't matter how old the body is. But if the mind remains updated, it will keep the body fit.
I must tell you, ma'am is very, very updated. As we were talking, she was researching, she was telling, she's also tagging Vicky Flow, guys, and she has a huge following. So that's really amazing. And she never left even a second to help us, promote us. So thank you very much,
My
ma'am.
pleasure. My
So for a little bit of a lighter note. Sure, Indra, you want me to do this? If you could manage one mindset that holds women back, what would it be?
Mindset which holds women back. Their
If you
own
could change it.
self-belief. Their own self-belief. They self-believe. They don't believe in themselves. That is the real issue. You don't believe in yourselves. You don't believe in the own potential of your own.
True.
Self-belief. I have given you an example of my self-belief from my childhood till now. And nobody told me I have to believe it myself. Or create something which I start believing. And I practice. How do you have self-belief? You practice it also. And you live it. So you are self-belief. And all of us are gifted in God. God has sent each one of us gifted. Realize your gift and believe in it and practice it with smaller steps every day. And you'll see how far you go.
Thank you. What's your favorite cuisine, ma'am?
Cuisine?
Food.
Cuisine?
Yeah.
What is cuisine?
Food.
I have a very clear nutrition plan. It has no cuisine. It has a time of eating and the right kind of food which gets digested by 8 o'clock. So where's the cuisine?
I know, ma'am. We shall follow that very
I'm
soon.
good. Already giving me home food to travel in the Indigo tonight. And tell her, ask her, what did I ask her for?
Roti, dal, sabzi. That's it.
One green vegetable, one dal, and one roti. And some salad. That's my cuisine.
But you never eat out at all, ma'am?
No, I eat very selectively. I eat outside, but I look for salad.
Okay.
If I can get, or a dal, or a green vegetable which doesn't have oil. So that's my. See, the point is the time of eating and finishing my food by 8 o'clock. Because I want to sleep. I want my body organs also to sleep. Because if you eat late, then these organs are working through the night, grinding to work. I want them also to go to sleep. And they let me sleep, I let them sleep.
IPS or tennis, your first love?
Oh, tennis led to IPS. Without the tennis, IPS wouldn't have happened.
One app you use most often?
App?
App.
Application?
On the phone.
Well, I use ChatGPT a lot these days. When I was writing my book on my work in prison, and it was during COVID times. During COVID times, there was no editor. कोई आ नहीं रहा था घर. Publisher भी घर से काम कर रहा था. Everybody was working from home. But I'm writing my book and I want to finish my book. Guess where I went to? Grammarly from ChatGPT. Wow. I became my own editor.
One book every woman should read?
So many. Why one book?
No,
Why
if
one?
you have to recommend,
No. Why one?
read everything.
One every day. Read spiritual books, read literature, read biographies, read autobiographies. I think these are a range of books you must read. I can't say just read spiritual. Read a range which you like, but must read. Read every day, a bit every day.
Favorite movie?
Oh, long ago, which I saw, which inspired me hugely. A movie called A Woman Called Golda. It is Golda Meir's biographical film, A Woman Called Golda. I love that film. She inspired me immediately.
Ma'am, one last question. Favorite.
Now, this is the last, okay?
This is the last. Okay. Favorite politician before 2014, that is pre-Modi and after 2014. Favorite politicians?
None.
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 But if I gave you the option of saying
I don't have favorites there.
no favorites. Okay.
You can wait to them if you wish. I have no favorite politician. No politician is my favorite. But a reformer is. And reformers also are politicians.
Yes.
But they are reformers first.
Yes.
Gandhi ji was a politician, but he was a reformer first. He's my favorite.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for your...
Ma'am, thank you. Ma'am, thank you for keeping it so real, so authentic, relatable, and wonderfully engaging. Your warmth, wit, and honesty had the audience laughing, nodding in agreement, and completely involved throughout the session. It was inspiring to see how effortlessly you connected with everyone while sharing such powerful life lessons. We are truly grateful for your time, generosity, and an unforgettable session. Thank you so much, ma'am. With your permission, ma'am, we would now like to open the floor for a few questions from our members. If you're okay with that? Yes. Okay. So the first question is from our member, Preeti Dadu.
Is there anything unanswered?
Definitely no, ma'am. Very good evening.
Thank you.
It's an honor to be able to ask you a question today.
Thank you, Preeti.
After decades of making difficult decisions under immense public scrutiny, what's the one habit you believe has shaped your judgment the most? Something you think every aspiring leader as a woman should cultivate. which is more than talent or intelligence?
It's a very loaded question. You got to break it up a little. I want to answer this question to understand it first.
Ma'am, what is that one talent that we as women need to have to be able to lead, which is more than,
Self-reliance.
which I think I got the answer the moment you said that a little earlier when Deepa was asking the question.
Self-reliance. Look, interdependence is fine,
Yes.
but your inner self-reliance. Now, you can have friends and you can rely, but in the end, it's self-reliance. Believe in that. Practice self-reliance.
Yes.
And the more and for that self-reliance, a lot of mental work, a lot of physical work, a lot of environmental work. Self-reliance cannot happen just self-reliance. What do you mean by self? Unless I exercise every day, how will I be self-reliant physically? Right? Unless I work on my brains and knowledge and wisdom and reading, how can I be mentally self-reliant? How, if I don't get the right kind of ideas, how will I get them? How will I learn? Self-reliance. So self-reliance in totality. That means a lot of homework. And self-reliance does not come without heightened self-awareness. If you are looking at what are you doing, why you're doing, what you're saying, why of that should come in your head. You need to answer your own self. And another way would be self-policing. Self-police yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. That's called self-reliance.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The next question is from Muskan Makhija.
But thank you for this question. I practice all the four. And that is what you're meant for. Your groups are meant exactly for this. Teach each other this all four areas. And each one of you have practiced this, adopted some good practices, share them. Share good practices and good mental health, good physical health. All this must be shared. That's what the sisterhood is for.
Good evening, ma'am. Your anecdotes are so inspiring. My question is, you broke the glass ceiling in Khaki. If an actress is going to break the box office playing you, who has that first woman SHO energy today?
अभी कोई पिला नहीं.
I know it's difficult to fill your shoes. Very difficult.
मिला ही नहीं. They have been trying, by the way. My producer is working on a biopic.
Okay.
वो मिला ही नहीं. कहता मैम मैं कहाँ जाऊँ? कोई इस जूतों में डालने के पैर डालने के लिए तैयार नहीं है. तो मेरी बायोपिक पता नहीं बनती है कि नहीं, मुझे नहीं मालूम. लेकिन we have not found one, but if we do, then the biopic come.
I think you need to find a real woman and not the actress bit.
They want the voice, they want the gait, they want the hair,
Definitely.
they want the look, they want the tan. So all that, सब कुछ उसके मिलेगा कि नहीं? If you have anybody, just let me know.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Our next question is from our immediate past chairperson, Deki Chawla Yangso.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran Bedi. You are so,
Are you from
so
Philippines?
inspiring. Am I?
Are you from Philippines?
No, I'm originally from Tibet.
Oh, Tibet.
Yes, yeah.
What a lovely
but a
country.
hardcore Bangalorean.
Oh, lovely country. I've been to Tibet.
Oh, yes,
I've
absolutely.
been to Dalai
beautiful.
Lama's palace.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. At the Potala
When I went to
Palace.
Mount Kailash Yatra with
Yes.
Sadhguru,
Okay.
and that's when I went through Tibet.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not very easy to get Tibet pass from China
No
anymore.
more, no
yes.
more.
But it's so fortunate that you've been.
Yes, I did. I was very fortunate.
Thank you, Doctor. I absolutely loved your inspiring talk. A huge fan. And I love the way you mentioned that your philosophy of policing isn't just enforcement. It was, I think, empowerment, rehabilitation, and of course prevention. Similarly, at Flow, we do a lot of work with women at grassroots, and it's not just about skilling, but it is about giving them pathways to dignity and to livelihood. And when you mentioned drones, that's something that piqued my interest, and I thought I would love to share with you that we have been actually training and empowering women at grassroots to be certified drone pilots. And we'd love to work with your foundation and see if we could train some of the ladies over there as well. So that's one thing.
I'll be very happy to work with you.
Yes.
My easiest contact is my website.
Wonderful.
If you
We'll
go to
do
my
that.
website called kiranbedi.com,
Yes.
there's a contact page there.
Okay.
Just send me a mail through that contact page.
We'll do
It'll
that.
come on my real mail.
Yes.
And when I reply to you, you'll get my asli mail.
Fantastic. All right, we'll do that, definitely. And it is from Flow, so it'll be fantastic. I'll get the coordinates from Deepa and Nidhi as well. But my question, my question is, ma'am, you've after a lifetime of leading organizations and people, what aspect of leadership, through your experience, would you kind of now rethink or unlearn that perhaps has made you an even better leader? Perhaps a philosophy of leadership that is not so relevant now as it was then.
I think remains universal and fundamental. You cannot lead others before you lead yourself.
Ah, that's beautiful. Okay.
You must lead yourself first for all that you want in others.
Right.
And don't have to speak. Just let it happen.
Quiet leadership.
You
Yeah.
just quiet, but it's like demonstrative leadership without wanting to demonstrate.
Right.
You're honest, you want honesty. You're punctual, you want discipline.
True.
You're knowledgeable, you prepare. You are recognizing others, you build teams. Right? So it's the way you first lead yourself with all that you want in others and just live your life.
True.
You will, and you are in a position, people will flock you. People will speak right behind your back.
Mm-hmm.
And build, so give recognition and remain grateful. Remain grateful for whatever they're doing. Give the credit to them. Don't be a credit stealer.
True. That is, I think, so profound.
So be your own leader. Be the person, the leader in the person
Right.
before you're in position.
Right. Beautiful. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Ma'am, the next question is from our head treasurer, Nidhi Rathi.
Nidhi?
Good afternoon, ma'am. So one thing that is stuck in my mind after hearing you is your entire journey of the Tihar jail and how you've transformed the entire place into becoming a very disciplined and organized sector. The only thing that I'm not able to convince myself is, how did you convince yourself to help somebody whom you know has done something so terrible? Like, how do you help somebody if you know that, this person has done a very bad crime? We also come across people in our lives when we are aware that, okay, this person has done something which is not correct or not right or morally very bad. How do you convince yourself to make that person's life better?
I looked at that the man has already been punished by being in prison. When he's in prison, he has no choice of anything he has. Food, family, place of stay, the kind of people he's staying with. And if I add to this further punishment, I'm making a rakshas out of him. So I have to rethink for myself. I am here for his security. Not giving him a pardon, neither mercying him. No, I'm not on mercy. I'm making sure that there's a new day for him. He's done some evil. He's raped a person, or raped a child. I hate him for it. But can I continue hating him? That's not my responsibility now. My responsibility now is to see he create a situation for him that he reflects, he repents, he himself apologizes, he himself admits to the judge that I did a wrong. How do I create a situation where he himself says, मुझे माफ कर दो, मेरे से गलती हो गई, लेकिन सजा तुझे मिलेगी, माफी मांग. My problem, my dilemma is when somebody is hung after years and he's already repented. My problem, I can't reconcile to that. Where he's done a meditation program, he's admitting to something was wrong, and then you decide to hang him. I think that to my mind is not reconcilable. But this is reconcilable for the reason that he has to be out of it. I can educate him, send him to meditation, and I've done that. Many life convicts who did a Vipassana meditation program, I'll tell you a Norwegian story. A Norwegian who was with me called André Gaznia from Norway, he was with me in Tihar prison, not my time, later. He did the Vipassana meditation program. He was inside for 10 kgs of heroin. 10 kilograms of heroin. And he was naturally full term, 10 years to hona hi tha. So he'd done about 4 or 5 years, and he went through Vipassana meditation program. And one day he tells superintendent, call my lawyer, I want to talk to him. Kis liye bulana hai? He says, because I want to tell the judge, I have made a mistake. You can punish me as I want, but now I want to set myself free. That I've apologized, I've regretted, I've admitted, I'm now free. Because when you live with the guilt, you're never free. So he wanted to get out of his guilt. And the lawyer said, nothing doing. I'm not taking you to the judge. Because you know what it means? 10 years of imprisonment. He says, no, it means 5 years of freedom. Because I'll be physically free. I'll meditate and grow spiritually. And they kept saying no, but he went. He insisted. He went to the judge. And he told the judge, sir, I've come here to tell you I did bring 10 kilograms of heroin. I admit my guilt. You can punish me as much as you want, but judge, I have something to ask. You are punishing me only for 5 kgs. I want to ask, where are my other 5 kgs? Other 5 kgs, somebody probably has taken away. Who took it? God knows. But he says, you are punishing me for only 5 kgs. But I had 10. Please find out who took away my 5 kgs. See, he admitted to such an extent. Now see how nature worked. He was convicted for 10 years. And now he was a convict inside the prison. But feeling very free, whatever he got what he wanted. As nature had it, the president or the prime minister of Norway was visiting India. After he was convicted, after conviction, Norwegian television gave his news, which got to know, his parents got to know where was he. They did not know all the while where Andrew Gaznier was. So the Norwegian president called on to all the president of India, called on the president as a courtesy, and said, now that Andrew Gaznier has been convicted, can we not transfer him back to the Norwegian prison? Because now he's convicted. As under trial, he could not have been. He's convicted, so we can handle him in the Norwegian prison. So could you please transfer him? Do you know what happened? The president granted him pardon. We would like to pardon him. That was out of the powers the president has. Because she realized, or he realized, whoever it was at that time, that he has admitted his guilt. And that he's evolved, right? And we can pardon him. So he was pardoned. He went back to Oslo. He wrote to me and he sent me letters. Went back to Oslo, sent a cartload of shipment of clothing for the prisoners. Warm clothing for prisoners. This is the real story. And he has written this story in his own handwriting. Because when I was writing my book, I've written a book on the prison also, called It's Always Possible. The last 3 pages of my book have these 2 letters, this handwritten note of Leo in his own handwriting. Because I told him, nobody will believe your story, my writing it. You write it in your own handwriting. He wrote it in his own handwriting, and those 2 pages are in his handwriting script. This is the truth of the matter.
I think, thank you, ma'am. I think what you have is something very powerful, and it's not easy for somebody to do what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Nidhi. Thank you. But Nidhi, I've noticed that when you work with good intentions, best of intentions, conscientiously, with a sense of gratitude, with a sense of giving, and for larger good, nature comes in and fills in. That's what happens.
Ma'am, thank you for a truly enriching and thought-provoking session. Your words have reminded us that leadership is not defined by position, but by purpose, and not by authority, but by action. On behalf of Flow Bengaluru, we sincerely thank you for your time, your insights, and your unwavering commitment to public service.
I want to tell you, this is my finest session I've had. My finest session I've had. I want to thank you for it.
Thank you so
I've been
much,
so
ma'am.
much at home with you. So much at home with you that I've loved. I feel I'm one of you. Thank you so much for the love and the cheer. Whatever came for today, I dealt with it on that day. And whatever is overflow the next day, deal with the overflow the next day. With all support you could get. And pray for support. I have truly lived one day at a time. But with amazing support from my family. As long as my mother and father were alive, you can't have better supporters than them. So was my in-laws, can't have more caring people than them. This is, to me, God's blessing. You don't choose your parents. So therefore, whether those parents I did choose, but turned out to be right. So what I'm saying is, I think I have been truly, I would say, grateful to God for whatever He made it possible so far. I don't know about tomorrow. But I think we must remain grateful for the blessings we all have here. And one of the best blessings you all have is good health. That's why you're here. Otherwise, you would have been elsewhere. So remain grateful. So I have remained grateful. And I've looked at every challenge which came by that day. Of course, it caused me a lot of stress, anxiety, challenged me, found out where's the solution. I looked for solutions, but I applied my skill और knowledge कि मुझे help कहाँ से मिल सकती है. कोई वकील मिल सकता है जब मेरे lawyers के साथ strike हुई थी. बड़ा कुछ है. कहाँ से गलत बोल रहा है कोई, कहाँ से help. I had to find my own solution, but with my self-belief कि जब मैंने किसी का बुरा नहीं किया, किसी का गलत नहीं किया, मेरे से गलत नहीं होगा. मेरे से गलत नहीं होगा. I have to now use my skill and my resources to respond to it without being stressed out. Because if I start saying very problem hai, then it become a bigger problem. So I never, another habit I have is no complaint. I'm a solution provider. I look for where is the solution. What's the point in complaining? And complain to whom? कोई सुनने वाला है? नहीं है. सुनने वाला ही कोई नहीं. अगर सुनने वाला है तो मम्मी डैडी तो थे. जब वो चले गए तो कोई सुनने वाला नहीं है जिस पर मैं विश्वास कर सकूं कि जो मैं शिकायत कर रही हूं कि जेन्युइनली मेरे दिल से मुझे बताएगा. After the loss of my parents, I have nowhere to complain and I have nobody to complain. Only to pray that God give me the wisdom to find the right path. So I think if you remain with this simplicity, but with best of intentions, nature works for you, maybe late, maybe makes you suffer, but reading, everyday reading, spiritual books, listening to very good YouTube programs which give you very good discourses, whether it's the Ramakrishna Mission, whether it's Osho, whether it's Swami Vivekananda. I listen to all of them. I listen to, in fact, when I'm listening, then I'm listening to these discourses or a great book story, a biography. So I listen to this inspiration all the time. Whenever I have the time, I spend on listening to these kinds of encouraging food. This is nutrition for me. So once this nutrition comes in, you get that health and energy, and your mind is clean. You're not complaining again. Complain karo kisko? Don't be a complainer in life. Be a solutions provider, but fall back on friends you have. You need not be alone when you have parents. If you don't have parents, you have sisters, your brothers, your relatives. Who do you trust? Go. But don't complain. Don't complain. Saying, I want to share. ये मेरी मुझे options है. तुम्हारा क्या ख्याल है? मुझे क्या करना चाहिए? मेरे मन में ये बात आ रही है. ये issue आ रहा है. Problem नहीं है. Issue आ रहा है. तुम्हारा क्या ख्याल है? So listen to him. Adopt that idea or don't. So I think you have to live one day at a time with gratitude, with mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual fitness. Once you have all this, even then suffering comes, you will be able to take it. Otherwise you will suffer more. Listen to YouTube today. YouTube is a treasure. Not for reels, not for fashion designing, not for dogs. All the time they're dogs and birds. Plenty. You watch for 2 minutes, move on. Hey, I'm wasting my 2 minutes. 2 minutes chale gaye. 2 minutes chale gaye. But gone. It's with knowledge. It was fun. But I think you need to be aware, and that's the only way I've done. Now, Vipassana, how it changed, why I changed, because as I told you, crime grows in the mind. A bad thought grows in the mind first. Then it translates, directs the body to act. It directs the body to go. It directs the body to use. So once you have the mind management, that means awareness over your mind. It's a mind over a mind. Develop a mind over a mind to mind you, mind your own self. And that you learn as you listen to these wonderful discourses. And you will be your own master, and you will be able to guide others. You'll guide yourself and you'll guide others. That's how I found. I was looking for solutions all the time. Not कि मुझे इनाम मिलेगा, मुझे मेडल मिलेगा, मैक्सेस से आएगा. मुझे पता भी नहीं था विपश्यना करने के बाद मैक्सेस से आएगा. आ गया ना, अपने आप आया ना. लेकिन मेरी रीत थी उनकी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने का. So it came as a solution to the others' problems, which became my sense of giving and gratitude. Also doing my duty conscious. That is what role we have as parents, as citizens also. So we are all citizens, we are entrepreneurs, we are parents, we are professionals, and we are all Ficky floors, aren't we? So I think look for any opportunity. How can I be of value to the others? It will help you in the long run. It's good deeds. It's good karma. Good karma.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. As we conclude, a heartfelt thank you to all our members for your presence, participation, and support. Your engagement is what makes gatherings such as these truly meaningful.